Hello, my name is Carol from North East Counselling Services. We're a counselling organisation based in Gateshead in the northeast of England, and we want to help people to live their life by giving them some hints and tips about how to make everybody in their family's mental health really good. Today's presentation is helping our children in lockdown, and it's kindly been written for us by one of our counsellors, Sarah Liddle, and she's done a really good job of giving you some hints and tips and advice. First of all, what we're going to cover this morning is doing and being you, so getting you thinking about how you react to a problem or a change situation, and think about how you may be able to do it more effectively. We're going to look at some well-being fundamentals for children, looking at sleeping, eating and drinking and activity. We're going to look at feelings, how you notice what your child's feeling and acknowledging them. Thinking about permission to feel and then validating their feelings too. Also, once they've shared that information with you, we're going to have a look at staring alongside them and the importance of a caring touch. Then we look at things that are important to children, like their lack of control in their life and the importance of socialising. We're also going to have a word about homeschooling too, and then Sarah's kindly recommended some brilliant books which you might find useful to have a read around the subject. So the first thing we're going to cover is how you react to change. Lots of us react to a change or a stressful situation by doing stuff. You know, we make a plan, we start to do things, we rush around, and it makes us feel better because actually it stops us having to think about the impact of that change and what it's done to our feelings and our sense of being. We might feel a bit wobbly, we might feel frightened, we might feel sad or upset. But in order to get rid of those uncomfortable feelings, we do things and it makes us feel better. And it's worthwhile acknowledging how you react to things and what do you do, because actually what you do is what you're showing your children. We all model behavior for our children. They watch us to see how they're supposed to be acting in certain situations. And if we're reacting to stress or anxiety by rushing around like mad things, then they will do that too and put their feelings down below. So have a think about what is your situation? How do you react when things go wrong for you? The next thing I want to talk about is the fundamentals of well-being. Do you know that children need 9 hours of sleep every day? And this includes teenagers, so children and young people. And what we're suggesting is you make sure that your child or young person gets as much sleep as possible, because that helps them to be calm, helps them to function correctly, and just, you know, stops them being angry or anxious or whatever. So what we're saying is really we're encouraging a daily routine. So getting your child ready for bed, taking their phones off them, their screens about 30 minutes before it's bedtime, so that the blue light isn't affecting the melatonin. And the light emitted by digital technology does affect melatonin, and that's your body's natural chemical that makes you drowsy just before sleep. Sometimes families have a house rule that all of the electronic items go into a box at bedtime so that they can't be used through the night if somebody wakes up through the night. So think about, are you going to do that? Because again, once they've looked at it, the blue light starts to disrupt their melatonin and it'll be hard for them to get back to sleep. And also think about, what are you modeling to your children? Do you have a healthy sleeping pattern? Are you talking about, you know, reading your phone in the middle of the night and things like that? Because remember that children model us. The next thing to consider to have happy kids is to make sure they've got a healthy, balanced diet. And that includes making sure they've got their 5 portions of fruit and veg a day. There's plenty of water around for them to drink, and water should be the drink of choice. And try to limit the amount of fizzy drinks, because quite a lot of them have caffeine in. And we know that caffeine causes similar reactions in the body to if people are anxious, so you'll get heart palpitations and things like that. So it's worth checking everything they're drinking to make sure that there's no caffeine in there, because young children in particular shouldn't be drinking caffeine. What we do find as well is that older children drink the caffeine drinks, and then it keeps them awake through the night, so they're getting disrupted sleep pattern. So have a think about how you can regulate the amount of caffeine and sugar in a young person's body. The other thing to bear in mind is that children do need time to have activity. Normally at school they'll have break times where they can go out and run around, and it's worth thinking about how you structure your day, and is there time in between exercises for activity for the children. It doesn't have to be anything structured. It could just be letting them out in the garden if you've got one, and letting them run around, or getting them running around the house, which I know is sometimes easier said than done. But what we don't want is children to be static all of the time. We need them to get their energy, it gets their frustration out, and it helps them to keep calm. So think about what's your daytime activity and plan in some time for children. So that's the kind of physical things, the well-being things that you can do to help your children during lockdown. The next thing we want to talk about is getting children to talk about feelings, and feelings are something that are quite difficult to talk about, especially for children, because they don't necessarily have the word for what they're feeling at the moment. So what we suggest is, if you see your child looking a particular way, say to them, "Oh, I've just noticed you're looking worried. Is there anything you want to talk to me about?" They might say, "Oh, I'm not worried, I'm angry, or I'm scared," or whatever. But just kind of talking about those feelings, not noticing that they're having feelings and acknowledging the feelings, can really start to help the conversation. And what we want to do is make sure that children and young people can open up, and you're helping them by acknowledging their feelings and helping them to get new words for different feelings. If they describe how they feel, then that's great. So perhaps use a tool from the internet, like a sheet with lots of different pictures on, to start getting your child as young as possible to talk about how they're feeling. And then once you notice their feelings, then you can start to understand what's going on for them. The other thing to bear in mind is we tend to push our feelings away, and we might do that for children. We want them to understand that it's okay to feel sad or anxious or upset. And there's a lot of kind of negativity around feelings of anger or upset or whatever. But really, it's not the feeling that's the problem. It's the way we react to it. And so encouraging your child to talk about how they're feeling, and then helping them to understand how they want to deal with it in a constructive way. You're helping them to understand that they've got permission to feel exactly how they want to feel. Everybody has the right to their own feelings. And what we want to do is to say, yes, it's okay to feel like that. I feel like that too. So if your child's sad because they're missing their friend, it's perfectly okay for you to say, "Oh, I'm sad too. I miss my friends. I'm really looking forward to seeing them." Don't kind of just say, "No, it don't feel like that. It's not great." And that then brings us on to validating children's feelings, because if they've got a feeling, what we try to do sometimes, if they're feeling sad or upset or angry, we try to minimize that feeling to make them feel better. That, we're doing it from a good place. We don't want them to worry about things. So what we do with that is we dismiss their feelings, and what we need to do is validate the feelings. So if they're saying, they're worried about something, don't say, "Oh, that's never going to happen." Start to talk to them a bit more. So get them to talk about what do they think is going to happen as a result of that, and then help them to talk about understanding what might happen, and show them the different options and things like that. So, think about validating the child's feelings, even if you don't agree with them. They might well be worried, but what you can do, if you're validating their feelings, say, "Oh my goodness, you must feel worried. What about? Tell me more about it," and then you can help them to think about solutions as you go through getting them to talk is absolutely fantastic. And then bear in mind, sometimes when we're upset, we don't want people to fix things for us. We just want to feel upset and be able to talk about it. And this is where it's important to kind of keep your child and stay alongside them while they're talking. Don't talk over them. Don't give them solutions. Don't say, oh, well, come on, it'll be fine. Just listen to how they're feeling. Let them talk about it. And actually, when we're thinking about this, it's probably quite good to walk alongside them, or if you're in the car, sitting alongside them, so you're not looking at them and not kind of putting them into a feeling of intimidation or scrutinized or something like that. So thinking about staying alongside them, get them talking, keep them talking, that's the most important thing. And of course, a caring touch, what child doesn't love to have a cuddle from a family member or something like that? And it's not something we can do at the moment. And there's a lovely quote from Professor Francis McGlone, which says, what's happening now is that for the first time in evolution, people aren't able to experience this thing we usually take for granted. You don't miss something until it's gone. But when touch is removed, people will notice that there's something missing, even if they can't pin down what it is. So, think about how you touch a child, give them a pat on the shoulder. And there's a vast amount of research out there highlighting that touch is central to the physical and psychological and emotional development for the well-being of our children. So sometimes a hug or a reassuring pat on the shoulder can be worth more than any words. So think about how you're making up for that lack of touch in other places, obviously because children can't see their friends anymore or things like that. So think about your touch. What we're coming on to next is the fact that children, especially the younger they are, have very little control in their life. The clothes are bought for them. We choose what they want to do. We choose where they're going to go. We choose what's going to happen that day. And you probably know as an adult, if people tell you what to do all of the time and watch over you all of the time, then that's really frustrating. And if you don't get choice, then it makes life very frustrating. So think about your child and the situation you're in, and think about how much control do they have over their own life. And if you find that it's probably not very much, think of ways you could get them involved and get them to make choices and have some control. So if you're planning your weekly meals, don't just say we're having this on these particular days. Maybe give a list of the meals and ask your child to choose which day you have them. You're not changing the menu to suit your child. What you're doing is giving them some choice about when they have them. If you're thinking about planning the school day, think about talking to your child about when it's good for them to do particular things, and give them small choices that they feel comfortable with making. Because sometimes if you say to a child, oh, what do you want for lunch? They don't know what the choices are, and it's no surprise when they come up with something you wouldn't give them. So think about, could you include choice and control into your child's life, and get them involved in making decisions and showing how constructive it is to make decisions for yourself. The next bit is, it's really important for children to socialize with other people the same age, and there's a lot of developmental psychology done which shows the role that friends play and how we learn to be in the world. Because if you think about it, if children are watching us for their how to be in the world, they want to practice those things out in the real world with their family, with their friends. And lockdowns really reduced that. So, think about how you could get your child to socialize in a COVID safe and an internet safe way with their friends and get them talking. Don't be sitting over them if you can avoid it, so that they can do some unstructured play, and let them use their imagination to get things going. And, if you've got siblings in a household, sometimes it is very difficult, but encouraging them to to play together in some unstructured play is probably a really good thing to do. Now we come to the bugbear, which is a problem for a lot of people. The first thing to say is you're probably not a teacher. So if you think about it, you're not a teacher and your home isn't a school. It's very different to what the environment they have in school. For a start, you're around and they probably don't have desks like they do at school. And what we want to do is make sure that children can learn, but you don't have to do everything that they would do in school. And one of the big things is to drop your expectations and, you know, if necessary, have a chat with the school about dropping expectations, because putting pressure on yourself is going to stress your child out too. If you're stressed, your child will be stressed, and vice versa. And then it suddenly gets to be this massive problem within your household. So think about what children might accomplish. You know, if school says they've got to complete 10 questions in 45 minutes, if your child's done 6, that's good enough. They've got the 45 minutes there. And remember that children have a much lower attention span than adults. So if you think of the average 10-year-old, their attention span is only 15 to 20 minutes. So breaking up their work into 15 to 20-minute chunks with a little bit of running around in between will really help them and keep the stress factor down. So think about the time, the attention span your child has, and your expectations and the school's expectations. And the other thing to be wary of is the roles are blurred. You're the mum or dad, carer, parent, grandparent, whatever. You're not the teacher. And children do different things for teachers than they do for parents, probably because of peer pressure or the need to want to impress the teacher. So think about the boundaries between what you're getting them to do. You know, you're teaching them, you're schooling them. Actually, you've got to keep the dynamic of the family and the harmony in the family as much as possible. And think about, you know, is it really necessary to force children into doing this studying and getting into fights? The gaps in education will probably, you know, be overcome at the end of lockdown. But your relationship with your child is what is the most important thing now and in the future for the whole household, for you and your children. So homeschooling is a big problem for people, and it is a problem especially if people are working from home. But remember, it's their home, it's the child's home, and just because you have to work from home doesn't mean they can't come into the room or anything like that. So think about homeschooling. And then Sarah's recommended some fantastic books. There's links to those books in here, and they will also be in the handbook that accompanies the presentation. And you can see there's a real mixture about boys and girls and communicating and things like that. So we've got lots of different recommendations for you to have a look at. And then really what I would like to say is thank you for listening. North East Counselling Services are here to help you live your life, not just exist. And we've got lots more free resources, including the handbook for this presentation on our website. If you click the link that says access more free resources, then you'll be able to get to the website. Thank you very much.